Good evening. Welcome to Art Fair Philippines Day 1, Gallery Walkthrough Session number 4. Just a few reminders before we start. The audio function will be limited to the moderator and speakers. Type your question in the Q&A box and the moderator will read out your question. Click the raise hand icon if you want to ask your questions live. Again, we'd like to thank Art Fair Philippines co-presenters Ayala Land, BPI, the Bank of the Philippine Islands, Globe Platinum, and our special project partner, Don Papa Rum. Our education partners for Art Fair PH Talks, the Ateneo Art Gallery, the Museum Foundation of the Philippines, and the Embassy of Spain in the Philippines. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this gallery walkthrough. I'm Tricky Lopa. I'm one of the co-founders of Art Fair Philippines. And I feel particularly lucky to be in this session because we will take you through all over, through 2 different cities in Metro Manila, to Southern Philippines, to Paris, and to cyberspace. So let's begin in the metaverse with terHEN. terHEN is a group that brings together international NFT artists, and as their name suggests, they sell on the Hikanon platform, cryptocurrency that prides itself on being environmentally friendly. So please, let's call on Patrick and Diane of terHEN.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Tricky. So we are here to present terHEN. So terHEN, we are an online gallery presenting NFTs and so selling NFTs. So as Tricky mentioned, we are based on the Tezos blockchain that is environmentally friendly. And also one of the particularities of this system and blockchain is that we sell editions, affordable editions, which makes a big difference with the unique editions of other platforms. And we developed terHEN as an alternative to the more speculative and commercial approaches that can be found on Ethereum. So that was the motivation to really present the artworks as art, so to create a bridge with the contemporary art practices rather than the NFT practices that you might know of. So that was the idea that led us to create this space with 20 other artists. So I'm going to leave Diane to introduce the artist and the other names.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Patrick, for the short intro. So I'm Diane Qube, co-founder of terHEN. And so for the Art Fair Philippines 2022, we are presenting 27 artworks from 8 artists. With this group show, we actually decided to reflect the diversity of artists and medium in the NFT space, because you will see it's quite diverse. So some artists are presenting today a small series of artworks or also solo pieces. You will see that our multidisciplinary approach is very wide, from abstract to figurative, from digital to analog, from sculpting to coding, and it's really the large scope of contemporary art practices. In terms of topics, we explore diverse social and cultural and political topics with a very international perspective. So I just would like to quickly explain the different artworks that we are presenting now on the website. Sorry. Okay. So basically, with our series Influence, Elie Giotiva is exploring senses and desire in biological life by examining organic livelihood and ecological terrains with laser light scans. Patrick Tressé is presenting Human Study Hong Kong. It's actually a series of short videos featuring part of his solo show in Hong Kong, where we can see robots becoming stylized minimal artists, drawing obsessively the subject sitting just in front of it. With her piece They Are Coming, 8, the capture, Iskra Velichkova created a generative vision inspired by Solaris, where machines are hypothetically organizing themselves. For the Art Fair Philippines, Somatic Bits and myself are presenting synthetic meteorological journeys in very short videos from a large series of AI-generated photographies composed of 220 artificial weather phenomena. Then we have the series by Johnny Dean Mann, which is called William Blake's Illustration of the Book of Job. It's basically a translation of the strange content of Blake's life, ego and belief into a very modern and visual representation transformed into the digital age. With my series Ignis, I tried to play with color psychology to create an immersive piece, which is actually a short video of 14 seconds. They are basically metaphors to the 14 years left before us, before we reach out the carbon neutrality or the point of no return. And now I will let Björn Kalera and Patrick Jamora, who are the two featured artists that are representing terHEN at the Art Fair Philippines. Björn? Oh, Patrick.
Is Björn here? Should I start?
Yeah, I think you can start, Patrick.
Hi, I'm Patrick Hamora. I'm a visual artist. I work mostly with graphic design, print, and publishing. It was right around this time last year when I ventured into digital art and went exploring into new media. Like everyone else, I was stuck at home and I didn't have anything else to do. So I was on the internet, I discovered NFTs, and I was fascinated with the blockchain technology and how it allows digital works to now be owned, exchanged, and sold just like art in the real world. So this was around the same time that I met Björn, Patrick, and Diane, who were also experimenting with the platform at that time. So I got really intrigued and inspired by the art that I saw using Qube, which is what Patrick is doing, Web3, decentralization, and the availability of open source media on the internet. So I was excited that a lot of museums and institutions worldwide have been digitizing archives and putting them up slowly for free on their websites. So as a graphic designer who enjoys spending lots of time collecting images, this was a really good resource for me. So I was curious to see what I could use and find about the Philippines in these archives, if there were any. And although the resources are still quite limited, I was able to find interesting images and footage that I reworked and continue to use in my exhibitions for terHEN. So for the series, I make use of footage from what seemed like a military briefing video about the Philippines. I made them into 4 futuristic, glitchy cyber trash postcards, which is a common theme in digital art and NFTs. So I wanted to use that and add a bit of history to it. Each video clip comes with a sound bite also taken from the main footage, each depicting commentaries on how English is our main language, the weather and our outlook on natural disasters, and the state of urban living in the Philippines, as you can see behind me right now, through the American colonial gaze. So please visit our website at the Art Fair Philippines website to view more of the series. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Björn Gajah. I'm a visual artist from the Philippines, also a part of terHEN's featured artist in this in their exhibition for Art Fair Philippines. For this exhibition, I'm presenting an extension of the works that I have for the Art Fair Philippines project, which is the exhibition entitled Unknown Unknowns. These works attempt to ask the question, what do we know and how do we react to things that we aren't prepared to. For terHEN, I have prepared 4 animations that are I introduced 4 animations that provide a different context and another layer to the works that I'm presenting for the physical exhibition. Beyond which takes a viewer beyond the frames of the paintings and adds a different narrative to the works. One is Son of a God, which is a parade of a carnival of professors personas, which symbolizes oneness. It includes a Christ-like character, which also symbolizes that we are one spiritually. Another piece is Violencia. It's a work that reflects the internal struggles that we have. Sometimes we react as violent. We have violence as a reaction when we're faced with circumstances that we aren't prepared for. The other work is The Exit, which is also another reaction that I think we have facing the unknown, where the main focus is the surrender and giving up. And the last is The Exit, which is a reminder of the fragility of physical life and a dissection of the body is revealing life in its purest form, which is energy. And another is Hope Theory, which is my representation of man's surrender to nature as a response to the unknown. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Bjorn. Thanks, terHEN. We're moving on to a gallery that's based in Singapore and Yogyakarta in Indonesia. Gajah Gallery was founded in 1996 and is dedicated to the representation, promotion, and exhibition of Southeast Asian artists on the local and international stage. Hello, Nicole of Gajah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole of Gajah Gallery, one of Singapore's longest-running galleries that focuses on modern and contemporary Southeast Asian art. I will introduce our 3 online exhibits for this year's Art Fair Philippines and discuss the practices and works of our established participating artists. Our first show is a solo exhibit by Indonesian artist Erizal As entitled Subconscious Evolution. Erizal is renowned for his vibrant abstract paintings that break free from traditional representation. He paints directly on his canvases instead of premeditating a fixed image and sees intuition and improvisation as crucial to his process. His movements on the canvas have also been described as spontaneous, almost subconscious, and this show highlights how the same description can be applied to his artistic evolution. Erizal believes that shifts in his artistic style happen in cycles of 5 years, and the works in the show, created within a 5-year time frame between 2017 to 2022, reveal his inclination to experiment with diverse artistic forms. Whether he's painting portraits or landscapes, purely abstract paintings, or recognizable forms, Erizal resists neat artistic categorizations and instead blurs boundaries between them. Early in his career, Erizal would depict recognizable figures in his paintings, like animals in motion, musicians playing an instrument, capturing their movements with spontaneity and grace. In 2016 and in subsequent years, Erizal experimented with portraiture. But what he would do was abstract the faces of human figures completely, creating a visual metaphor for the fragility of our truths and identities, like you can see in this painting. In 2019, Erizal decided to eliminate the figure entirely and venture into pure non-representational paintings, which he presented in a solo exhibit, Formless Existence. So you'll see here in this piece how his impasto textures have become thicker, his strokes and colors bolder, and he even began to let his paint spill beyond the canvas, capturing the inherent formlessness of one's inner world and establishing his signature abstract language that has earned him recognition across the region. In 2021, however, Arizal made an unexpected shift in his practice and began experimenting with landscape painting. As if harkening back to his early years as an artist, recognizable forms have once again emerged on his canvases. Capturing rolling hills, lush greens, lakes, and cliffs, this new series of landscape works follows his return to his hometown in Padang, West Sumatra, after having lived and built his career in Java for several years. Here, Arizal brings us back to the colonial era, where Padang was prime for painters who focused on landscapes. Yet, as Arizal returns to his roots and embraces his heritage and history, he also grounds this new series in the contemporary, capturing Padang's landscapes with the signature expressionist style that he honed in Java. Ultimately, what makes this series unique from more naturalistic depictions of Padang is how he employs the raw, visceral quality of abstract expressionism to capture the poignant emotions that come with returning to one's hometown. Our next exhibit is a group show of contemporary artists in Southeast Asia entitled Navigating Truths, Traditions, and Taboos. In this show, we are featuring a diverse mix of 6 established artists from Indonesia, Singapore, and the United States who employ various artistic approaches such as abstract expressionism, hyperrealist painting, and contemporary sculpture. Ibrahim is a West Sumatra-born artist known for his abstract paintings that employ contrasting colors, quick, spontaneous movements on canvas, and portraying a visceral beauty free of ideology. While his works are abstract, he draws inspiration from the colors and textures of West Sumatra's natural landscapes to translate his evolving moods and feelings from calm to turbulent, not unlike Arizal. Yunizar, who was also born in West Sumatra, depicts more recognizable objects and figures in his raw, childlike works, which are filled with flora, fantastic creatures, and his signature, illegible, emotionally charged texts. Yet, like Ibrahim, his works are filled with expression, as Yunizar is determined to capture the true feeling and essence, or rasa, of subjects found in his immediate everyday surroundings. The next 2 artists employ familiar imagery to reflect critical reflections of their context in Bali. American artist Ashley Bickerton has lived on the island for almost 30 years and is hypercritical of its tourist culture. His signature silver-skinned Balinese women against idyllic tropical backgrounds and adorned in local flora serve to parody the Western ideal of paradise. The Balinese woman was similarly a constant subject of artist Igusti Ayu Kadek Murniasi, who subverted taboos in the local art world through her bold depictions of women's fantasies and desires. Her surreal works that reclaimed her sexuality and body ultimately paint a striking picture of an artist breaking free from social convention and from stereotypes of what Balinese women could create. The next 2 artists explore more conceptual approaches, provoking audiences to shift and broaden their perspectives of long-held systems of beliefs or worldviews. Singaporean artist Suzanne Victor creates haunting, ethereal sculptures of Christian icons and hearts coated in shattered stained glass, which invite viewers to reflect on the ideologies that sustain them, whether religious or scientific, in a fresh light. Indonesian artist Rudy Mantifani's highly refined, hyperrealist paintings are often described as visual parables, manipulating everyday objects and symbols such as the Garuda, a mythical bird used to represent Indonesia, Montefani encourages us to explore new ways of seeing the world around us by highlighting metaphors and ironies pervading our everyday. For our last show, entitled Grounded, we've decided to turn the spotlight on emerging artists from Southeast Asia. So since its inception in the late 1990s, Gajah Gallery has made it a mission to support young, promising artists in the region. The gallery continues this mission through innovative exhibits and programs. The annual New Now show gathers carefully selected, freshly graduated artists working in Singapore, shining a light on works that possess both powerful concepts and remarkable mastery of skill and medium. Many of these artists graduated from Singapore's top art schools, such as NAFA, the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts, and LaSalle College of the Arts. Gajah Gallery's second art space in Yogyakarta, Indonesia's vibrant artistic and cultural capital, similarly dedicates shows every year to young Indonesian artists that are quickly becoming active, influential figures in their artistic communities. This show brings together selected artists who have participated in these programs over the past 5 years, exhibiting works that are not only fresh and new, but reveal deep curiosity and understanding of material, place, and heritage. So these are our exhibits for Art Fair Philippines. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Now we head off to Paris with Mayoral Gallery. Founded in 1989, Mayoral is a gallery located in Paris and Barcelona. The gallery articulates an exhibition program focused on post-war and contemporary arts with very famous Spanish names. So let me turn over to Mayoral.
Thank you, Tricky. And thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm just going to share my screen with you all. There we go. So as Tricky mentioned, we are a gallery, a Spanish gallery founded in Barcelona 30 years ago. We've been in Paris since November 2019, so just 3 years in Paris. I'm the director of our gallery here in Paris. Across both galleries, we articulate an exhibition program that is largely focused on 20th century Spanish art, both post-war, but also the great modern artists such as Pablo Picasso, Salvador Dali, and Joan Miró, who were the generation before them. They were the first Spanish artists to really leave Spain and create international reputations that are obviously still enduring today. We have also quite recently started to work with some contemporary artists. So I've put up on your screen here some of the artists that we've brought to our stand at Art Fair Philippines. The three great 20th century artists that I just mentioned, Picasso, Dali, Miró, and post-war art for which the gallery is most well known, Anthony Tapies, Eduardo Chillida, Juana Frances, and Fernando Zobel. I'll get to talk to him about him a little bit more because he's an artist who, although born to Spanish parents, was born in Manila. So he's an artist that we share. He was a bit of a global citizen really because he also did his studies in the United States. But we'll talk about him and show you a work of his in a couple of minutes. I just wanted to briefly mention that living artist who we're also starting to work with, Mari Chorla, was one of the first radical feminist artists in the 1970s. She wasn't just an artist, she was also a poet and a writer, and at the forefront of lots of the feminist movement. She established sort of spaces that were for females only and where women could, without fear of repercussions, express themselves. Jordi Alcaraz and Maria Prats. And Maria Prats is born in the late 1980s. That's a photograph of her, as you can see here. She's really very much artists working in line with the modern and post-war artists of the 20th century. So I wanted to start with the three Spanish greats of the 20th century. I think all three are artists who you will have absolutely have heard of, and they have their household names basically almost the world over. There are museums that their works are not just in museums, there are museums who exist with their name and completely dedicated to their work. All of them have made in the recent past and before sort of eye-watering records at auction, but we've included them today, and I wanted to show them to you because the message, I suppose, is that it is still possible to take a little piece of their work home with you. The works on paper that you can see on your screen are quite accessible price points. We sort of go from 100,000 euros for the Dali to around 60,000 euros for the Picasso, and just under 300 for the Joan Miró. A Dali on the left of your screen was executed in 1952. It's one of a series of illustrations that Salvador Dali created for a 1959 very limited edition of a book called Le Tricorne, which was printed in French at the time. And it's based on a 19th century, late 19th century Spanish novel that was basically turned later into an opera and into a ballet. And Dali's first collaboration or official collaboration with the story was in the late 1940s when he was commissioned by the New York Ballet to create the background of the ballet for the dancers. So it's a project that Dali was working on for a couple of decades, and this is one of the drawings that was selected to be included in that limited edition. The Picasso in the middle of your screen is also related to books and creation. It's dedicated, as you can see in the back, to Gustavo and Ana Maria Geli, who were Catalan, Barcelona-based prints and bookmakers that he worked with almost exclusively in Spain. And as you can see, he has drawn a beautiful line drawing of two men confronting each other, the extraordinary expression given the limited means that he has, just pencil, very simple lines, on the top of a catalogue of drawings that he would have probably had lying around in his house. And the inscription reads in Spanish, "For my friends Gustavo and Ana Maria Geli, here in Mougins in France, the 13th of November in 1969. And he's being quite specific because basically when General Franco took over the dictatorship of Spain, Picasso refused to go back to Spain whilst he was still the dictator in charge. So there's a little sort of touch of history, touch of Spanish culture as well attached to this drawing. And I wanted to also show you in a little more detail this painting on paper by Joan Miró. It has a beautiful lyrical title, which is Le cœur flamboyant chasse la nuit, which translated into English means the flamboyant heart, which is hunting nighttime. And as you can see in this close-up, the form on the left is in the shape of a heart, and it's very black in stark contrast to the very light and airy background. So Joan Miró was a very spontaneous lyrical artist who didn't necessarily plan, I would say, any of his drawings and works from the 1960s in advance. He let his hand and his rhythm gesture guide him. So this big splash of red paint, which can be read as blood and related to the heart, comes on top of these little colourful squidges of pastel onto the white paper that Miró would have added with his thumb. There are some wonderful videos and content of him creating, so you can really get a sense of his spontaneity. And then obviously the big black star on the left as well gives you another indication of where we are in this beautiful constellation and cosmos. So this work has a very particular provenance linked to its subject matter, because Miró originally, we can see on this shot from the verso, dedicated it and offered it as a gift to a lady called Marguerite Mag, who was the wife of Aimé Mag, And together they created and founded a gallery in the 1940s in Paris. And they worked with Giacometti, Chagall, Matisse, Calder, Léger, and of course, Joan Miro. So he was, they were mirrorist dealers in Paris, and they had a long collaboration which lasted for both of their lifetimes. And Marguerite Mag can be seen in this photograph here next to Miro, blowing out his candles on the occasion of his 75th birthday. In 1968, she's the lady with the sunglasses on. So they held a dinner for Miro at the Mag Foundation in Saint-Paul-de-Vence in south of France, which some of you may have been to. Which I can show you a photo, is absolutely stunning, and which Joan Miro himself had a part in creating. He collaborated very closely with the mags on its layout and its conception, and he even recommended the architect Joseph Louis-Sert, who had constructed his own atelier. And this photograph that you can see here is of a labyrinth in their garden, which includes hundreds of works, sculptures by Joan Miro, conceived specifically for this spot. So this, the foundation was opened in, let me just check, in 1965, I believe, which was only as the year this picture was created. So this work is sort of slightly linked to the history of Joan Miro and the mags. And on top of this, on the back of the work, this inscription of Miro, who offered the work to Marguerite. Marguerite has written in turn on the back that she gave the work away to a man called Jean-Paul Binet, and she writes in French, Guiguette, which was her nickname, offers this work in turn to her friend and surgeon with her grateful recognition. And this surgeon, Jean-Paul Binet, was a heart surgeon. So I think it's not a coincidence that she chose this particular work to give to him in recognition of her thanks. So it has a lovely full story related to its subject matter. And so to the post-war section of our stand for Art Fair Philippines. These are three of the artists from the sort of born in the 1920s, creating in the 1950s and 60s. Antoni Tàpies is a Catalan artist who was born and lived a stone's throw from our gallery in Barcelona. His work, including this wonderful paper from 1987, sorry, that you can see before you, is full of symbolism, but symbolism that is deliberately obscured. There's no key to decoding what he puts before you, and that's part of its magic, because whatever it inspires in you, whatever it says to you, is legitimately what it's supposed to be showing to you. But here we have quite clearly a hand and a finger heading towards a cross. A cross appears frequently as a symbol within Tàpies' work, and crosses in Tàpies can mean a whole host of things, including identity. When you sign your name and you want to be anonymous, or prisoners or people who can't hold their pen anymore often sign things with just a simple cross. But a cross also means a particular spot. It can on a map. It can also mean have religious connotations, of course, as well. So it's a kind of mysterious lyrical work on paper. And then we have Eduardo Chillida's Lura. So Eduardo Chillida was a Basque Spanish artist, and Lura in the Basque language means earth. So this is a ceramic piece that is created from a chamotte clay, which is a particularly robust and dense clay because it is cooked in a kiln 3 times, so that a maximum of impurities and water leaves the work. And this means that it can be heated and fired solid, and it both sort of takes on a heat and loses its heat very slowly, which means that it doesn't explode in the kiln if it's too solid. And then Juana Frances was one of the only female artists of this generation really to come down to us, because at the time in the 1950s, if you're a woman and you wanted to work living in Spain, you had to request the authority of a male relative. Then when you got married, you were expected to give up working completely, no matter what your métier or your profession was. So in order to be an artist, it was a particularly radical, brave thing to be doing at the time. And Juana Frances's painting here is from 1958, and it's a really expressive, abstract fight between the light and the dark. And I think that it's very representative of Spanish post-war art, where black was very heavily present in the work, black to be linked to the art history of Spain and Goya and Velázquez, but also it represented the long night of the dictatorship of General Franco. And so we're to have this beautiful light that comes up in almost sort of fighting its way through, like the sort of sun fighting through storm clouds, because they're a very poetic, beautiful image. I'm just going to show you a little bit closer. Frances and all of these post-war artists were part of a generation who had survived civil war, had survived World War II, and the artistic courant at the time was very much, how do we create art? How do we approach humanity in this new world where we've seen so much destruction? How do we express what we've seen and what we feel? And I think there was a complete revolt against traditional means and figurative painting, and artists in Europe in the 1950s turned to deliberately very humble materials, and they wanted to foreground the poverty of these materials. They wanted to do as little as possible to transform them. They wanted to remind you visually of what had been used to create their artworks. And Juana Frances mixed sand and gravel and resin to her oil paints to create this very thick, pasty texture that she could use to build up her surfaces, and to create even more dramatic tension between the light and the dark. It really foregrounds the texture and the materiality. And the same thing in Chiida's Lura. I wanted to show you this close up because you really get a sense of the monumental and the solidity that Chiida was able to create in a work that is in fact very small. You have the feeling that you're looking at an ancient, enormous cliff or a wall or something that has been there for a very long time. It's almost been unearthed. And each of Chiida's Luras is completely unique, and he's working in a series of experimentations of repetition, and so each line that he's incising is very deliberately chosen into his ceramic piece, and provides a sort of a shadow or a very slight movement that changes your sensation of space and changes the effect of light on the surface of the work. And then, as I mentioned, I wanted to most of all, last but not least, talk to you about Fernando Zobel. So Zobel's full name is on your screen. He was born to Spanish parents in Manila, as I mentioned, but he studied at Harvard and Rhode Island, and didn't, during his living and working life, didn't stay in the same place for too long. So he very much, I think, thought of himself as a citizen of the world. And this year, 2022, is what we're calling in the gallery the year of Fernando Zobel. The catalogue raisonné that has been worked on by Alfonso de la Torre is being published this year after a great many years of work. And there are two quite important exhibitions. One at our gallery, a solo show for Fernando Zobel in Paris, which I think hasn't happened for many, many years. We'll be showing his works from May to June of 2022. I'm working hard on putting that together as I speak. And then probably even more importantly, the Prado Museum in Madrid is holding a solo show of his work. And the Prado Museum is obviously not known for its contemporary art, and so it's a very big deal both in Spain and in Europe. So the year of Fernando Sobel is upon us and opening soon. Fernando Sobel was painting in a quite figurative way, lots of landscapes, until in, I think, 1955, he discovered the work of Mark Rothko in Chicago at the Art Institute, and it completely transformed his way of working, as you can see with this work on your screen. He's a lyrical abstract painter whose backgrounds are soft and delicate and worked with brushes so that there's an atmosphere of light. And then on top of that, he comes to work with almost a grid, and he's using a hypodermic syringe to create the finest, tiniest lines. And I think the challenge that he put to himself was to create an expressive lyrical work with a tool that could not be more opposite. Hypodermic syringes obviously used in the medical profession, and it's all about precision and fine lines. So I think that the modernity of Sobel's late work, this piece is from 1974. It shows that he reached this apogee in this idea of creating lyrical abstract work with the opposite of means. When he talks about his work to Patrick Flores, he was saying that his work is shaped on memory. He would, for instance, hold the idea in his mind of an effect of light or the flight of a bird or something like that to inspire him. And this particular work was painted in Seville, from an inscription on the verse in 1974, as I said, and its title is Marina. So I think it has something of a horizon and the sky and the water and the reflections, which, once you know the title, you're sort of guided that way. But it's a particularly beautiful work that we're asking just shy of 300,000 euros for. I'll show you a detail here of the horizon. And you can really see the contrast between the precision of the lines and then the soft floaty background. There's another work of him working in his studio, photograph of him working in his studio. And I just wanted to finish by celebrating Sobel's role, which was not just as a painter, he was also a really fantastic mécène, is the French word, but a benefactor for his contemporaries. And he put together an absolutely incredible collection of paintings by Spanish artists from the 1950s and 1960s, which are all abstract and all created in a context of anti-General Franco. And for a good 2 decades, he was putting together this collection, buying works directly from his contemporaries, exchanging works for his own, that he has housed in this beautiful museum. As you can see a picture on the right, it's in a village called Cuenca, which is about an hour or so from Madrid, in the hills and the mountains. And they have these wonderful, fantastic hanging houses, which sort of climb up the cliffside. And this museum is what now considered probably one of the first democratic museums during General Franco's dictatorship. There was no support for artists from museums, from institutions. They were working even from galleries. They were working very much on their own. And during his whole working life, Fernando Sobel was one of the people who collected their work and put it together and has left a legacy visible today in Spain for us all to see. And so we're very much looking forward to celebrating both sides of his importance in the creative life of Spain during the latter half of the 20th century. So I think that's all I have to show you in my presentation today. But do let me know if you have any questions, and we'd be delighted to answer them for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Sian. Wonderful works, wonderful pieces. Thank you for all of your little vignettes about each piece. So from Paris, we move back to the Philippines. Okay, our next presentation is from Pinaglabanan X. To those who follow Philippine art history, Pinaglabanan Gallery is legendary for its support of the avant-garde and the rising young stars of the mid-1980s. It was founded by sculptor Agnes Arellano, who is also one of our foremost female artists. So AFP welcomes Pinaglabanan's latest incarnation, Pinaglabanan X. Can we call on Agnes and Billy of Pinaglabanan Galleries?
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Yeah, Pinaglabanan X is an online gallery and a studio that fabricates the sculptural works and handles the marketing of Agnes Arellano and her family. Last year, she paid tribute to her uncle, grand uncle, Juan Arellano, with relief enfleshments of some of his very private paintings. And on this second foray, we decided to curate a show named Body and Soul. And we invited Juan Diodato, Raul Diodato Arellano, to join Agnes in the exhibit with some of his nude sketches. Next slide, please.
Slide number 1, please. Pinaglabanan X is an offshoot of Pinaglabanan Galleries Inc., or PGI, which energized the art scene in the Philippines in the late 1980s. Established in 1984 and lasted till 1989. We had 5 seasons. Pinaglabanan means, for those who do not know, Pinaglabanan is a feisty word that means fought over. And when we started, it's in San Juan, and it's the site of the very first battle in the revolution against Spain.
You can see the sculpture.
On screen are the different views of the gallery, which featured at that time my works from the Temple of the Moon Goddess. The first slide shows different levels of the sculpture garden, and the second one shows the gallery before we turned it black and walls and ceiling were black, which became a big challenge to artists at the time. And then there is this front garden, which is actually the pediment you can see is actually the ruins of a fire in 1981, which razed our ancestral home to the ground. And we founded Pinaglabanan Galleries to honor the memory of my father, Otilio Arellano, who was an architect, my mother, Liwayway, my sister, Maria Felicitas.
Okay.
So now Pinaglabanan X is the offshoot. We have started, as Billy said, last year with my relief enfleshments of Lolo Juan's very, very private paintings that came in private collections. And it was important to share our legacy from Lolo Juan.
Yeah, it was erotic paintings also. The work the paintings were erotic, and Agnes infleshed them.
Yes, out of a two-dimensional work, I did reliefs. And it was fun to see there was no more color, and there were many differences between painting and sculpture. No?
So this online gallery was born from art fair, the challenge of art fair, and until now. So it was born from the pandemic. So let's see, we're a very, very young online gallery. So we'll work on it.
Slide number 4, please. No, yes, thank you. Trip.
Yeah, we took a trip during 2008 to India to have a pilgrimage and a research also. So this is the Red Fort in Khajuraho. So we went to the central India, where I think for 13 years already there was no rain. So people go out there only at 10 o'clock in the evening when the sun is no more shining. So yeah.
The photo is important to me because the color of this red fort is the color I used for my reliefs, my Khajuraho reliefs. It's red sandstone. Slide number 5, please. Yan. We found at least a dozen buildings like this, all enveloped with erotic imagery.
Yeah, it was found in central Khajuraho during, these temples were made during the 10th century by the Chandelas. These were not destroyed by the Mughals because I think it was more inside in the central India. So it was spared from destruction because a lot of temples in India were really destroyed. So here you could see the works. This is faced to the south because they believe that it's against death. Sex, reproduction will be the one only to counter death. As you could see the positions, there are hidden yantras in the triangles. Hindi ko nakikita.
Cute tayo ng ilang minutes na lang. Sorry.
Okay, next.
The slide number 3, please. 3. Yan. These are the works. My red sandstone colored reliefs interspersed with the nude sketches of Raul. I worked using the photographs that Billy took of Khajuraho, and we were way down on the ground, and most of the photographs were pointed up. So there was a slight distortion in proportion. I took this in and then focused on the curves and the convolutions and framed them in the church windows of my youth, either with a Romanesque arch or a Gothic arch.
Here you could see the yantra.
In the next work is a group sex thing, yogi and yogini adepts.
Like
You can see the triangles. This is an erotological. This is an ancient tablet which is used for instructing adepts about the different positions and effects of those.
using sex or copulation to get a higher state of mind. And so you produce your children in a very heightened awareness.
The small work is it's a Yabyum couple that's ensconced within a South African sea coconut, Coco de Mer. Raul's drawings, there are more of them in the website.
Yes, our page, in the web page with the art fair, there are more surprises.
1 minute left. Okay. 1 minute.
Next slide.
Slide number 6, please. Yeah, this is Raul.
He's an actor. He was based in America for a while, so now he's back here in the Philippines. He's the grandson of Juan Arellano. So, yeah, we're very happy that he joined us.
From his little farm in Calaca, Batangas.
Yeah, he paints actually oil. No? He has big paintings, with colors. But we just asked him to play with our curatorial prerogative in which is the body and soul, that nude. So he produced these 20 sketches along with works of Agnes of relief, which you would see in the webpage of Art Fair. So we're very happy to join this art fair for the second year.
We're very happy to have you guys back to Agnes and Billy. Thank you so much for that, for sharing such personal insights into the work of your gallery. So from San Juan, we go to Cebu with Qube Gallery, another gallery that's joining us for the second year. Qube Gallery was established in 2013, and they will tell us about the 2 exhibits for Art Fair Philippines.
Hi, I'm Pia, and this is Maurice. We're from Qube Gallery in Cebu, and we're excited to be a part of this year's Art Fair Philippines.
While we wish to be in Manila right now, we also take pride in being able to show to the Cebu audience a part of Art Fair Philippines.
Let us take you to our exhibitions through this video. Danny, can you please play our video?
Hi, I'm Pia from Qube Gallery, and for this year's Art Fair Philippines, we are proud to present 2 shows in our galleries. Into the Blue by Angela Silva at Crossroads, Manila, and Chelsea Skyline by Popo San Pascual in the Science Center of Cebu. For those who cannot visit us here in Cebu, feel free to make an appointment for us to virtually take you through the exhibitions.
I was born in Iloilo but grew up in Manila, then lived abroad for many years. I felt a lot of nostalgia and longing for older times and always family stories. In my work, I use images of old Filipiniana and family photographs and actual stories from my family. I explore themes such as memory, time, place, and identity. The medium I use is cyanotype printing, a form of alternative photography that produces a monochromatic blue image. The Return to Shadow Memories is very personal work about my family. You can see these are old photos, but you can look at them in a new way. I wanted them to be timeless. Hacienda La Fortuna is a collage of 3 cyanotype prints mounted behind vellum paper. The top print is the family mansion in San Carlos called Hacienda La Fortuna. I wanted to honor the women who were hired as yayas to take care of several generations of my family, the yayas who loved us as shadow mothers. Most of our yayas came from the family hacienda in San Carlos to work in our households as cooks, maids, nannies, and lavanderas. I found these old photographs in my mother's collection where our yayas held us. I compared them to the photos where our mother held us. Who is the mother and who is the shadow mother in these double portraits? I know these women and the stories of intimate history behind them, their mothering, their nurturing, and the subsequent separation from the children they held with pride and love. I made the artist book I call the Shadow of Mother's Album by hand, printing more photos and binding them into a book so I could tell more stories. I use artist books as a structural form to expand a given narrative across time as you turn the pages. I also wanted to see how the photographs in the album would look on the silk banner. Elenita to Helen to Elena is a collage of cyanotype prints on a digitally printed background. It's about my mother and her much-traveled life adventures. She came from a life of Negrense privilege upon which I base my curated memories and selective recall. I used her passport photos and my own handwritten letter to reflect a time of distance and longing.
She was the one to whom the child would turn because she was there, ubiquitous as the scent of sugar planted in the great haciendas where the rest of her kindred toiled. Was she shadow mother, or the one indelibly imprinted unto a child's sentient body? You say of cyanotypes, blue is also the color of the ocean, of distance and longing. Our memories of all our mothers taste of salt water, relentless waves of beckoning blue-black seas.
Here on the second floor of the exhibit Into the Blue at Qube Gallery is a series of prints called Slow Light Botanicals. These are botanical cyanotype photograms. This process, called wet cyanotypes, is a very contemporary one where I manipulate the light-sensitive emulsion. Photograms are basically objects placed directly onto sensitized paper and exposed to the sun. I use plants from my garden for these botanical photograms, plants that have survived well, ferns since primordial times, weeds that sprout unattended, and ivy that reaches out to cover ground.
Hello, I'm Jing Ramos, curating for Qube Gallery. Today, I'm at Qube Gallery, and behind me is a triptych by Popo San Pascual from his exhibition, Chelsea Skyline. This piece pulls the whole collection together. It's called the Chelsea Hotel, which housed a couple of artists, poets, and people of that ilk. And that gave Popo the energy to figure out the history of the place.
Thanks, Maurice and Pia. Okay, and so last for today, White Walls Gallery. They're joining Art Fair Philippines for the first time, conceived in 2016, but they opened bravely during the pandemic of 2020. Hi, German. Hi, Paolo. Welcome.
Hi, Tricky. Thank you.
Hi, Tricky. Pleasant good evening to everyone. Tricky, thank you for that introduction. I'm German Camigla, the founder and managing director of White Walls Gallery. I'm joined here by my co-director, Paolo. Paolo, do you want to quickly say hello?
Hi, good evening for those in the Philippines, and I guess good afternoon for those in Europe. Thanks for joining us this evening.
All right. So for this session, we put together a simple walkthrough video of our space, so at least you get to view what we have on exhibition. But I do encourage everyone to come and visit if you're able and see the show in person. As we all know, seeing an artwork in the flesh is a totally different experience. We should also have all the relevant exhibition notes, artist statements about their work available either on the Art Fair Philippines site or our website, www.whitewallsgallery.art. Okay, so before we run the video, I'd just like to provide a brief overview of our exhibition. We put together a couple of exhibits. The first one is entitled Visceral Ecologies, curated by Mr. Kokoy Lumbao. And in here, we wanted to showcase and maybe help answer some of the typical questions one may have around what goes on in the minds of some of our creatives, given quote unquote the times we live in. So as you'll see in their works, there are indications of anxiety, interest in the progression of art in the digitized space, the composition, reconstruction, and even thoughts like who will successfully emerge as the star in the world of virtual exhibitions, as hinted in Rodel Tapaya's Radio Star piece. The second exhibition in our loft galleries is entitled Upon a Threshold, which is comprised of upcoming and very talented artists who aim to show us the genesis of their art, the passion and the anatomy of their art. And as you'll see in the walkthrough, it's a collection of art pieces executed in different genres, be it works in pen and ink, oil and canvas, assemblage, thread work, new media, and much more. So at this point, we'd like to run the video. Thank you and good evening once again.
Thank you, German and Paolo. Now, we'd like to call on everybody to come back on stage for the Q&A. We actually... Hi, okay. So we'll proceed to the question and answer portion. We actually just have one question from Leonard Aguinaldo, who is an artist who was actually one of the special exhibitors for Art Fair Philippines a few years back. Hi, Leonard, I guess you're in Baguio. His question is, did you notice a change in the output of artists during the pandemic? Maybe we'll let everybody take a turn. We'll do it the same order that we called you for this walkthrough. So Bjorn, are you answering for terHEN, or is it Diane and Patrick? Should somebody from terHEN answer first? What did you think? Did artists increase their output during the pandemic?
I think I'm gonna answer for them. For this pandemic, I think it helped a lot that we were given. We can always take something good from anything that happens, even if it's not really good in the bigger sense. But yeah, it helped a lot. It gave us so much time to think about work, and gave us time to work on projects. During the pandemic, I entered the NFT space. So this is where I met Diane and Patrick, and this is also the time where terHEN was conceptualized and built. So I think the pandemic was something that challenged artists to create and push more, given the struggles, and we all just want a win.
Okay, thank you for that. Obviously, you were super productive. NFT, painting, what can't you do, Bjorn? Okay. Nicole, what did you think among Gajah Gallery's artists?
Well, I can't speak for the artists, but just a personal observation is that it's kind of like, for example, with the case of Erizal, it's like the longing to go back to their roots. Like Erizal returned back to Padang in West Sumatra after having lived in Yogyakarta for many years. And it was there he developed his landscape series, kind of looking at his hometown with new eyes. So yeah, I noticed that with several artists also, just like in their own ways, whether it's going to a place physically or just reflecting on their heritage, or yeah, things like that. And we actually had a show earlier this year about that with that concept, like reframing roots, going back to your roots. That's something a pattern that we observed among the artists during the pandemic.
Okay, what about you, Sian? Your contemporary artists? I guess Sobel, even if it's his
year. Yeah, so it's quite new that we've been working with contemporary artists, but I suppose that could be seen as one of the consequences of going through the pandemic and working in secondary market, and problems with accessing works or buying works that you can't see in person when they're 100 years old, and condition is a factor. I would just say in general that we have noticed that the pandemic created just globally, I think, a really renewed engagement with people, full stop, in the creative part of their lives. And that has helped all of us. I think the influx of visitors we had to the gallery when it reopened, museums weren't yet open for a good few months after galleries, and people were just desperate to interact and to talk about it and to see it. And so I'd say that there was a very positive upthrust in people's perspective and recognition of the role, and people wanting to purchase art and to live with it. So if there's a silver lining, maybe that's one of them.
Okay, I guess art was proved to be a real necessity during the pandemic for all
exactly,
of us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Agnes and Billy. Agnes, I mean, you obviously were productive during the pandemic. Look at all your wonderful sculpture that you're showcasing for the art fair.
Yeah, I think the isolation and the paranoia, art is a perfect outlet, right? So I noticed that there have been a proliferation of artists, young artists, galleries all over the place. I mean, now they're opening up, but during the pandemic, they all went to the
To their home.
rural area, not to the province, like that, and
They left
set
the
up their
city.
own
Yeah.
galleries.
It was not just good to other biennales, art fairs around the world. It kind of stopped for 2 years the
The rat
exchange
race.
art again of the especially art fair, Biennale, and Basel art, you know, and so. But
I guess it
in
forced you
the,
to, yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
that's the only negative. Everything was postponed, adjourned. So I don't know. I think there will be a vacuum of 2 years wherein those artworks were not marketed or shown. So I don't know. Something will happen.
Yeah, but maybe we look back and say it's like the best productive, most creative 2 years of the artist, because you're forced to like retreat and just be an artist, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, what about you guys from Cebu? What did you notice? I mean, obviously the art scene in Cebu seemed to have thrived during the pandemic, right?
Yes, we had a busy pandemic season, especially with having the first art fair here in Visayas last year in Cebu. Maybe we can ask Angela, if Angela's around. Angela, are you here? Maybe you would like to give your artist input into the question.
Hello, Angela.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, thank you to the Visayas market. We were very busy with local works, fundraising and productivity. I think I was at my most productive with almost like 6 exhibitions I was able to join because it was all regional and it was also by invitation. So it was a good, time out. And I think for me personally, I was able to really look at my body of work and think about it and then respond with stronger work. And that's also based on conversations with other artists. We had a chance to step back. So I think the Visayas was also pretty strong regionally.
No, I think so. The fact that you were able to put the Visayas Art Fair together, and we are talking to you again sometime in the next few days, right, Angela, precisely about your work in the Visayas. But that's for another talk, right? Yeah. And last but not least, German and obviously, yes, you guys opened your gallery during the pandemic. So I think I know what your answer will be.
Yeah. We certainly saw a positive, as you could appreciate, and what a lot of the other panelists here already mentioned. A lot of the artists took time to really reflect on things, and as you again can appreciate, they tend to draw from experiences and maybe want to document those experiences and emotion and turn it into their works of art. And given that maybe there were less distractions, there's obviously a lot more focus to build on their craft.
Yeah, but to add on to that, there are also another group of artists who actually do take inspiration by going out, or as German did say, certain experiences in actuality that did cause them to not get inspired, so to speak. So there were some also who didn't be as productive as we would like.
Patrick, do you want to add anything? Let's close with you.
Excuse me. I mentioned earlier that during the pandemic, I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time to research about NFTs. So I guess I was really productive. We were able to work on a lot of exhibitions with terHEN, with Bjorn, Patrick, and Diane. We started the website. We started to build it as a gallery for NFTs. So I guess, yes, during the pandemic, we were really productive. Even if I'm stuck in Iloilo as well, I'm reaching out to other areas in the world through the internet and NFTs. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. It was wonderful. As I said, I'm really lucky I was assigned to this session because the shows were wonderful. Our discussions were wonderful. Hearing all the stories and the insights behind your exhibitions are wonderful. We'd like to urge the audience to please check out the website, check out the pages of the galleries that we have here tonight. Visit them if you can. And Art Fair Philippines open today, but we have until April 1 to check it out. Oh, okay, sorry. The girls, Therese and Danny, reminding me we need a group photo, so please don't leave yet. Okay. Please give the cue, Therese or Danny, and we will smile for you guys.
Hi, everyone. Yes, ready? So 1, 2, 3, smile. One more. 1, 2, 3, smile. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. If the fair were actually happening as it should be, we would all now be breaking up and going up for a drink somewhere. But next year, that's what we're going to do. Thank you again very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Thank you and all the team.
Okay, once again, big shout out to our co-presenters, Ayala Land, BPI, the Bank of the Philippine Islands, Globe Platinum, our special project partner, Don Paparam, Art Fair PH Talks education partners, Ateneo Art Gallery, the Museum Foundation of the Philippines, and the Embassy of Spain in the Philippines. Please don't forget to tune in to all our gallery walkthroughs tomorrow. We had 4 more sessions, and you can scan this QR code, which will take you directly to the registration pages. Good night, everybody.